that we always say the BBC.
Asda advert.
Yeah, you better play that sax.
Do you think they'll try and get a sort of starry lineup for The Voice, for the judging, coaching, whatever they call them?
I don't know, based on the last X Factor panel. I honestly
Because
don't know.
there were rumours of Elton John last time round, so I wonder if he's sort of holding out for more money, for the ITV money. But yeah,
and where does this put the X Factor? Would people want the X Factor in September if we've had The Voice in January?
No. Well, they've got one more left on the contract, haven't they? They've got one more Britain's Got Talent and one more X Factor, and I think that ITV will want to continue with Britain's Got Talent, but not the X Factor, judging by the ratings and where everything is in the popularity of the shows. Whether Simon will then play hardball and say, "Oh, you've got to take the X Factor if you want Britain's Got Talent again."
They're like his kid. Yeah, you're not visiting one kid.
Yeah.
You've got to take both kids and be done with it.
But as you said, it needs to be rested, and even one of the producers came out, didn't they, and said it probably will be rested at some point. And I think if you're having... They're just too similar, I think, to have both on in the same year.
We shall see. ITV have surprised us and disappointed us time and time again.
Have they surprised us?
No. So that might be a surprise if they do.
Shall we start with The Bridge?
It's still subtitled.
They've not learned English I've only yet. Watched the first two. Are you up to date?
I've only watched the first one.
Oh.
Yes.
So this will be interesting.
Yeah. And I have... Cause, sometimes I find not knowing what's going on frustrating, but I know in The Bridge that it builds to something, and then everything will kind of fit together, and I don't need to get, sorted. There's a lot going on, and a lot to keep me interested and keep me excited about this. You weren't so keen on Series 2, and I think...
No.
Did that change your opinion of this series?
I was a bit wary, I think, and I was wary of the fact that Martin wasn't in it this time round. And obviously, you've got to the end of episode 1, where her new partner is introduced as a character we've sort of met previously in the episode. He's got a sort of strange life where he's an insomniac and he's married with children, but goes out and sleeps with other women. It's all a bit strange.
It's like someone shot a life on Gary's life.
Gary. But I'm not sure about this new fella, because obviously...
I could just edit that and make it sound like anything, really, couldn't I? If I was...
This new partner of Saga's.
Go on.
Because I'm not sure about the dynamic between the two of them, because what made The Bridge work, in my opinion, was the dynamic between sort of Saga, who's sort of borderline autistic and doesn't really understand a lot of things, and Martin, who's this sort of cheery, down-to-earth fella who, was a bit of a... what's a good way of... What's a PG way of putting that?
Tart.
Couldn't keep it in his trousers, that's what we should say. But he was a likeable guy, whereas this other guy, whose name I completely forgotten, the new partner... He's not very amiable. He's got his own agenda, basically. So I'd actually have preferred for the woman who was in it to begin with.
Yeah, it would have been a nice.
Yeah, two women.
I mean,
I think that would have worked better. I think even though she got blown up and
well, it's that little thing.
Yeah. Well, she was only her legs, I suppose. She probably turn up in her
pull
wheelchair
yourself together
halfway through, and obviously as well we've got the stuff with Saga and her family, and we should really, as they say in the theme tune, go back to the beginning, and talk about the case itself.
Well, the case itself. I mean, we saw or we previewed or reviewed a while ago a French show called Witnesses, where people were dug up and placed in scenes.
I was trying to remember what I'd seen it in, and it was that. I was trying to remember what the show was.
It was called Witnesses.
That Witnesses, yeah. Well, I just remember that thing, the same sort of thing where they had the people dug up and done them in that sort of tableau, whereas this time it was with mannequins, wasn't it?
I like that, though. I really find that an interesting... I mean, we've had 2 shows this year alone, 2 crime dramas that have had the old people being found under car parks and being, that sort of been done so many times. This I like, where they've gone to the effort of making.
Well, The Bridge always has that sort of thing, doesn't it? They're like the first series, for example, was there's 2 different bodies on the line
joined together on the line.
Yeah, and that was
the best bit of series 1 is, well, there's a lot of good bits of series 1, but I mean one of the best bits was when the journalist thought his car was going to blow up, and I mean they always take it to extremes, but not too extreme where you give up on it completely and think it's completely nervous.
Not to try and give too much away for you, but a lot of stuff does get in the second episode. There's another murder that sort of links back to one of the characters. The police chief Hans gets his own sort of subplot linked to one of the characters we met in the first episode. So it all sort of ties itself together, and I think it's good that they're giving Saga, like, her sort of backstory is getting re-examined and things like that. What happened to her sister and things like that with her parents.
But you don't sound as if you're going to be bridging every Saturday on BBC.
I'm going to try. I mean, I tried to download the 3rd and the 4th episode on the iPlayer app, and it didn't play on the train. I did go out of my way to try and watch it, but
okay.
I didn't.
So really, if you don't watch it, it's iPlayer's fault, not yours.
It is, yeah, the app's fault.
Yeah.
What I did watch yesterday on the train, the first 2 episodes, was The Murder Detectives, the Channel 4 documentary that they've done in sort of the style of a drama. This was surrounding the murder in 2014 of Nicholas Robinson, who's a Bristol teenager, not associated with any gangs or anything like that. Had just got engaged, was nice to his mum, was doing a bricklaying course, all this, and he was found. It actually opened with the 999 call he made just after being stabbed, which in itself was really, it was full of sort of expletives. So I can't do it word for word, but it was basically, I've been stabbed really bad, and then the next scene is obviously them finding his body and all, and it is. It is harrowing, and it is sort of, it makes you wonder about a lot of people's choices in life and things like that, because both the victim Nick and the eventual murderer himself were both people who their parents had gone out of their way to try and get them to avoid being put into these gangs and things like that. And it was so insignificant, the reason why he was murdered. And the mother had already had one of her sons murdered in Jamaica.
Oh, for God's sake!
And has subsequently, her 3rd and final son has also been killed. So it's just like, but I thought that the police detectives in this were fantastic. Especially they focused on the detective or the beat sergeant of the area in which it took place, and he knew all these kids and he knew them growing up, and his reactions to the news were really, really great, and the way they did it, the way it was shot was completely different from, say, Police Custody.
Because it was so harrowing, did it have the humanity in it that we liked about Police Custody, or was it always quite...
Because they had a lot of interviews with his family and his fiancée and things like that, and they interspersed them with the police investigations. A lot of it was to camera interviews with the police officers, with the parents, the family. It was really engaging. It was almost like you were watching a drama rather than just another sort of fictional documentary, for example.
A lot of the write-ups about this have said that it's better than your average. I mean, obviously it's real, as you say, but better than your average crime drama in the way they handle it.
I found it very moving at points, especially during they have his funeral there. It is very moving when it focuses on the family. His girlfriend, fiancée, I should say, was just fantastic, and she was so brave at 19, I think she was, and to lose someone who obviously the love of your life like that,
and talk about it so openly.
And actually, he called her, or he was in the middle of a call to her when it happened, and she rang him back and basically heard what happened.
What about the fact that they decided to strip it over the three nights?
I think that worked. I think so. I think, like, for example, they do that with crime dramas. I think it works. I think it will work just as well if they didn't, but I think it keeps people going, oh, definitely going to watch it tomorrow, whereas if you've got the week, oh, I don't know, but it's there. And I went, as I say, I watched them back to back on the train yesterday and just really, really thought it was fantastic. And again, Channel 4 doing something different with the factual format, but something engaging nonetheless.
I'm Still to Get Me Out of Here is finishing on Sunday as we record on Thursday evening. Lady Colin Campbell left the jungle of her own accord last night. We haven't spoken about this for a while because it's on every night. We only podcast every week, or in this case every 2 weeks. It's been the best series of I'm a Celeb for a fair while.
I think the last one I enjoyed this much was the one with Shaun Ryder and Nigel Havers and Stacey Solomon and that lot.
Dom Jolly and all.
Dom Jolly, Jenny Eclair. That was the last one that I enjoyed.
It's the last one we can probably name them all from as well, really. I really thought that I would despise of Geordie Shore's Vicky Pattinson and Fern McCann of The Only Way Is Essex. I thought they were just being brought in because they were on those shows, and probably to an extent they were, but I've really grown to like them both, and I would never have encountered them. In fact, I'd have gone out of my way not to encounter them on any other show, but I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. So, and I think Vicky's probably going to win it with all that.
I think the way they've edited it, I think for Vicky to win, or perhaps Fern.
I know you.
So go on.
You didn't see last night's because you were watching The Apprentice and the Murder Detectives, but last night's
I saw a bit of it.
Last night's trial that Fern
with the snakes.
Was it just? It was the most engrossing 15 minutes of television for a long time. Anton Deck was stunned. I was really into it, and I think it's a show that gets a bad rap. The majority of my close friends and family don't watch it, and they don't understand why I do. But I think it's a show that does get a bad rap for no real reason. I don't really know.
But you do know that Vicky Pattinson already has her own spin-off show from Geordie Shore.
What's it called? Judge Geordie.
Judge Geordie.
yeah, Judge Geordie. So she'll have to hang up her judging boots if she wins. That's
a bizarre programme.
I've never seen that. Never seen that.
It doesn't have a courtroom, unfortunately. It's just her going around trying to sort out squabbles.
It is a show though that if you're invested, last night they were doing the traditional letters from home, and that gets a bit emotional. And I will miss this when it's gone because I've watched it every night for the last nearly 3 weeks, and you get attached to them, and
then it's Christmas coming up now.
Yeah, and then you start opening your advent calendars and forgetting all about it. It's a show like Britain's Got Talent that doesn't outstay its welcome, and I always enjoy. The 9th episode of The Apprentice aired on Wednesday. It was a estate agent task, a housing task. I got confused about what they were actually selling. I'll be honest. I don't think they explained it overly well and what they were supposed to do.
It was property, but it was to get commission. So
yeah, for me, these tasks every week have been really, really good. Have they done this before? Because I watched it with my parents, and my mum was convinced they'd done it before.
Because it wasn't the Ruth Jones, the Badger series. Didn't she sell property?
I don't know. My mum was convinced they'd done
in The Apprentice.
Not Ruth Jones. Ruth the Badger, whatever her name was. Sorry.
Badger.
I'd love it if Ruth Jones was in The Apprentice.
Sorry.
Ruth the Badger.
It looks a bit like Ruth Jones. Ruth Badger sold property, I think, or cars, one of the two. But I seem to remember that she had quite a good outing doing that. I remember that was the week that Lord Sugar thought she was a serious contender.
That was the first series, wasn't it, Ruth Badger?
Second, I believe.
Yeah, second.
Oh, was it? Yeah, second, sorry.
Tim Campbell, wasn't it?
That's it, yeah. Second series where
Michelle Dewberry, what's it?
Yeah, no one thought she should win it, so
Margaret Mountford certainly didn't.
No.
Ruth Badger should have won.
But this was, aside from the bitchy two women, this was the episode where Karen really came into her own. I mean, she was not an advisor. She was actually someone stepping in several times during, well, this one and the previous one.
I did think they were all a bit harsh to old Scott. Do you not think?